think one of the big teams that have been like a disappointment this year. I mean, not really, but like kind of have fallen off a cliff ever since they played the Chiefs in the played the Chiefs is the Texans starting 0-4. And for some
Yikes.
reason they have and for some reason they have fired their mastermind of a head coach slash GM and Bill
Slash
O'Brien.
genius with a J.
If you can't tell by the sarcasm in my voice, like that is complete sarcasm. The guy was a complete idiot for giving up a crap ton of draft capital for a blindside tackle and an aging wide receiver and giving up DeAndre Hopkins, one of the best wide receivers in the game. But really quickly, just throwing out to you guys, did he get did he deserve to get fired?
Okay.
Nah.
I'm gonna.
All right, let me answer it all for everyone here. Yes, he did. All right, let's move on to the next question.
All right,
no.
let's dive a little bit more into our takes.
Yeah.
Let's go one at a time. Jonathan, what do you think?
I'm gonna say no because although they did start 0-4, they played teams like the Chiefs, Ravens, Steelers, and Vikings. So their schedule doesn't necessarily say it's a freebie schedule. Go Deshaun Watson, do your thing. Yes, I see what you're saying about trading away players for obviously getting Johnson for Hopkins was a questionable trade that we all looked at our phones when we got the notification and said, wow, did that really just happen? So I don't know if it's firing on the GM position or firing on the head coach position. It is tough to fire a head coach. The person that everyone blames is the head coach when you do start poorly. But I don't see any reason other than schedule here because you are facing against some of the toughest teams in the AFC and one of the toughest teams in the NFC. So I just don't get the firing really. I do understand the GM standpoint, but I personally believe that this could be a deeper meaning firing to trading DeAndre Hopkins. What do you guys think about that?
So let me just quickly butt in. I understand, the schedule was difficult, but then again, you're supposed to at least put up a fight against a lot of these teams. And more importantly, DeAndre Hopkins got traded because of a fallout with Bill O'Brien. J.J. Watt had a bust up with Bill O'Brien in week 3. Deshaun Watson has been trade rumors for this entire offseason. So to me, it's just malpractice from him. Really, it's unbelievable that he was able to get a GM job, let alone both GM and head coach. You know, they should have seen, as Emmanuel Acho put it greatly, they should have seen the playoff win against the Bills as an outlier, because really it makes after so many years of disappointment under, why back him now when you can go, okay, we have a team right now. We have D-Hop in the offseason. We have D-Hop. We have Deshaun Watson. We have Laramie Tunsil. We have J.J. Watt, like right in the area where we want him.
Whitney Merciless too, which was a really good
Whitney Merciless, who's kind of shown to prove in his contract.
They also get rid of Clowney at the offseason before that.
Exactly. So for like not much.
Yeah.
So I think it's not only the trading, it's not only the falling out, it's what they got in return. Because really, they gave up their best draft capital to the Miami Dolphins, which is just not the best move in the world because the Miami Dolphins have like all the picks in the draft all the time. But to me, I don't know. To me, it should have came in the offseason because they should have seen this. They should have done the exact same thing the Titans did and after they made it to the playoffs. Found out that the head coaching wasn't good, and they fired, and they would have gotten a more competent head coach.
I have a question for you, Ben. Do you attribute any of their success in the past recent years to him, or just to Deshaun Watson?
I think it's fully Ben. I'm just gonna answer. I think it's fully Deshaun. Just pointing. That's my answer.
Well, you can't just, especially in a football game, you can't just point out one player and say that's success. I mean, there's 11 players on the field.
Deshaun Watson is a magician.
I know,
on that
but
field.
Most of it goes to Deshaun Watson and the play of his individual players. You know, of course,
Dude
you got to
got
give a
kicked in the
little what?
Dude got kicked in the eye and still made the throw.
No, I know. I'm just saying, but I think it just, you got to give at least I'm gonna give him not even that much of a percentage of of kind of praise.
All right. I'm gonna jump in. I understand.
All right.
I understand all this slander coming his way because there were some very questionable moves he made as a GM, and he had I think you guys mentioned a falling out with JJ Watt, and there was some turmoil with Hopkins too, and that might have been the reason for that trade. But let's not forget. So this team went 10-6 last year. They won their division, the AFC South. They won a playoff game. They weren't looking like a bad team. It didn't make sense why to get rid of your best receiver and quite possibly the best receiver in the league for David Johnson, who struggles to stay on the floor sometimes. But when you guys are saying that it's all Deshaun Watson's a young quarterback. Any young quarterback that doesn't have a good system is not going to see that kind of success that quickly. So let's give Bill O'Brien at least some credit for that, because like we know,
I mean, I'm not going to put Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson in the same category, although Josh Allen has had an incredible season. They start 4-0 rather than 0-4.
That's
Just
right.
Deshaun Watson is one of those transcendent players. I know in the past some people have even compared him to Jordan, which is kind of crazy, but the comparison is out there. He has that kind of potential when he's on the field.
Well, I don't know. That seems like borderline blasphemous to me, to use a word that Stephen A. Smith would use. But like when you're looking at team record, right? When we look at basketball, because like you were making a comparison there, basketball is a stars league, right? So one star player could just take over and will themselves to wins. Football is more of a team game, right? Because a quarterback can only affect so much. The quarterback can only affect the offensive end. He can't do anything on the defensive side. And that's why the coach has the most influence in football over what happens to the team, what happens to the win, right? Because the coach is the only one that has control over both offense and defense on that team. Unlike sports like basketball or even soccer, where you are playing both sides of the floor, so you can make an impact in both spots, right? So I agree. Bill O'Brien probably shouldn't have been there to start the year, but come on, after 0-4 against the toughest schedule, like first 4-game schedule in the league, I think that might have been more of an overreaction and trying to like overcorrect for the mistakes that they made in the offseason rather than, a rational move to do now.
No, I mean, look, to your point when you said, they went 10-6, let's look at the AFC South just for kicks and giggles. Colts underperformed, Titans underperformed for half the year, and the Jaguars are the Jaguars. Of course they're going to get 10-6 if they have a half-decent team. Like, I know you understand.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but the Titans beat the Patriots, and they beat the Ravens. Like, that's not...
Half the year they were bad. Half the year they were bad. It wasn't up until Ryan Tannehill.
The second coming of Ryan Tannehill.
Exactly. It wasn't up until then that they were actually good. They went 10-6 with that division, and they came back against the Bills, who had Josh Allen, who at that time wasn't as good as he seemed to be this season. And okay, fine, it was a very great thing, but then they blew a 24-point lead mostly because of Bill O'Brien's mistakes. You see, he doesn't go for a 4th and 1 at goal line, but he goes for like a 4th and 5 with a fake punt at 24, which turns around to bite him later on. And he makes so many mistakes. He made so many mistakes in that game. And yes, they should have fired him right after that game and said, okay, this whole GM experiment. I mean, he's no Don Shula, But at the end of the day, this was coming anyways. He should have known that with the moves that he made, with the fallouts that he was having, because I'm sure JJ Watt has sway in that organization. I'm sure. I mean, he's arguably their best player, maybe ever. So you look at kind of like he fell out with top 3 receiver in the league. He fell out with one of the best defensive players this past decade, and you look at kind of just all of that, and you go, okay, you're supposed to be on the hot seat, and you trade for Brandon Cooks, who is injured sometimes, David Johnson, who after getting his contract couldn't stay on the field for 16 games. Of course this was going to come. He knew he was on the hot seat. And no matter what schedule he got, he knew that he had to at least win maybe even half of the game. You have Deshaun Watson with, yes, I don't agree with the Jordan comments, but you have Deshaun Watson who's incredibly talented. Who on the offense, I mean, one thing I remember from that Bills game is that it was an incredible throw in overtime to get the field goal.
Yep.
So you have all of these great players, and you somehow make everything wrong, even during the offseason. Look, after the Diop trade, I said he should have been fired. He didn't get a first for a top 3 receiver. It just, to me, this makes no sense. To me, the argument that he shouldn't have been fired 4 games in makes absolutely no sense. Look,
Okay.
if it's a rebuilding year for the Texans, then this is a rebuilding year for the Texans. But they have so much that Bill O'Brien. There's so much that Bill O'Brien has done wrong for this team, and after 4 games, it was deserved.
Okay. I have 2 points that I want to point out. We were talking a little bit about last year and how they won the division but lost to the Titans in the playoffs. The Titans were a mediocre team at the beginning of the last.
They lost to the Chiefs.
Lost to the Chiefs. The Titans, though, were a mediocre team heading into the season, and now they won the last 4 games to put them into the position to beat the Patriots in round 1 of last season. So
Shout out to the Dolphins for letting that happen. By the way.
yeah, the
Dolphins
Dolphins with So my other point that I wanted to point out was Dabo Swinney was actually the person who compared Watson to Jordan. His famous quote was, passing on him at number 1 was like passing on Michael Jordan. So it's a little interesting to hear that come from obviously his coach in Clemson, but we just gotta understand that he's great, and a great quarterback doesn't start off 0-4 for no reason. It's either schedule.
Wait, that was said about his draft.
In
Passing
2017.
on him at number 1 when there's a guy named Patrick Mahomes
Mhm.
that went number 10 ahead of him.
Patrick Mahomes didn't have like the same hype as Deshaun did.
And also,
Yeah, but comparing Deshaun Watson to Michael Jordan because of draft position when there's literally like an up and coming player that's already in contention for like
looking at it. That's looking at it now.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a little ridiculous looking back at it.
And that's why you can crap
He
on.
obviously didn't know who Mitch Trubisky was.
Yeah.
No, but
I just wanted to like double check. Like if that's said in the like in terms of draft, like I could see a case for the second best quarterback in that draft class, but wow. Okay. Continue. You guys were talking about. I just want to butt in there and say that real quick.
Brandon was gonna say one last point on the Bill O'Brien topic.
Listen, I just want to go back to like 1 or 2 points that was made, or like bludgeoned in by Ben. I just go back to that wild card game against the Bills. Josh Allen has during that season has been notorious of being crap the second half, and but like to me, I'll always attribute that game, and I'll attribute like whatever Texans success to Deshaun Watson, just because like he has been a good quarterback. Like he had like an ACL injury, so like not the first year obviously, but like after. Yeah, I mean, listen, they were a little bit unfortunate due to schedule. I mean, the Vikings are a pretty tough team, but the Vikings also don't have any safeties. So if they had at least like one competent wide receiver that wasn't a slot receiver, they played
2 undefeated teams so far.
Okay, that's fine. So you would expect like what, Chiefs and Ravens?
Chiefs and Steelers. The Ravens lost to the Chiefs.
Okay. Oh, that's right. I forgot. So that's fine. Like those 2 teams are kind of difficult to beat, especially because Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and the Steelers have a great defense.
High-powered offense, high-powered defense. Exactly.
Minnesota has a crap secondary. If they had DeAndre Hopkins, they would have won that game. In my opinion.
No doubt.
And then the other thing is like you only we talk about GM and some of his roles. Like the GM, he was only hired as a GM because after 1 year they got rid of Brian Gaine, their former GM after 1 year, and he got hired as their next GM, and he made some questionable moves, and a couple of questionable moves was trading Kenny Stills and Laramie Tunsil for 2 first rounds and a second. And you know what? Miami's benefited.
One of those first round picks is going to make a big difference in the upcoming draft class because the Texans aren't doing so hot, so that might help the Dolphins out a lot.